The 10th year of being with Julian. At my birthday party, everyone was clamoring to know when we'd finally get married. He answered next year with smiling eyes, the look he gave me overflowing with affection. Yet on his phone screen was a wedding dress photo of him and another girl. I only smiled and said nothing. Julian, we don't have a next year. At my 27th birthday dinner, Julian arrived late. He pushed open the private dining door, apologizing with a grin, and handed me my gift, an antique necklace that had just sold at auction. Under the lights, the pigeon blood-red stone blazed, a multi-million-dollar birthday present that drew gasps of envy from the table. Ava, you two have been together almost 10 years, so when's the wedding? Yeah, remember how you were the golden couple of our high school? Props to Ava for spotting Julian's potential early. You've finally made it. They were mutual friends from college. The teasing set off another wave of cheers. Listening to them, Julian gazed at me, tender and devoted, his eyes a night sky full of stars that held only my reflection. As long as Ava's willing, we'll definitely marry next year. I stared into those eyes. His earnestness looked utterly genuine, as if he truly loved me. We'd been together a decade. His life seemed to revolve entirely around me. We shared friends, social circles. I'd stood by him from rock bottom to smooth sailing. He remembered every preference, what I loved to eat, what I loved to do. He even tracked my cycle, making sure brown sugar water was ready. Because I hated the smell of smoke, he quit cigarettes for me and carried air freshener when we were together. Friends praised him endlessly, declaring his world began and ended with me. The ruthless CEO feared in boardrooms was, at home, a total lovesick fool. Yet this same Julian, whose world supposedly held only me, flaunted a photo of another woman in a wedding dress, the stab of proof that in our 10th year he had fallen for someone else, and cheated. Face pale, I blacked the screen. A scalding heat flared in my stomach. Sorry, something's come up. I need to go. Without waiting for reactions, I grabbed my bag and fled the room like a routed soldier. Back home, my stomach still burned. I crushed several painkillers into water and swallowed them. My phone pulsed, screen lighting then dimming. WhatsApp showed messages from Julian. Ava, did something happen? Is there anything I can do? Please reply when you get this. I'm really worried. Reading his anxious words, my eyes stung. Julian, tell me, why do you act so in love while shredding me apart? Around 2 a.m. the keypad chimed as he let himself in. I was already in bed. He tiptoed into the bedroom, eyes hot on me. A shrill ring shattered the hush. He killed the call in a panic, then sighed with relief when I didn't stir and crept toward the study. Through the wall drifted a girl's coquettish lilt and Julian's doting murmur. With my back to the door, a tear slid down. Julian, when did you start keeping secrets from me? The girl's name was Willow. The first time I heard it was during a casual chat. A recent graduate, she'd become his assistant. He described her as a delicate little thing who, surprisingly, hustled hard. She reminds me of you back in college. Remember how you chased that scholarship? While other girls partied, you stayed up digging through research. When he said it, there was an unconscious fascination in his tone. After so many years, I sensed the shift. Still, I believed loyalty and trust are love's foundations. Julian had to know that. I also trusted what we'd built wouldn't crumble over a passing fancy, so I played jealous. Now that you keep me, you don't love me anymore? Startled, he caught himself, laughed, and pulled me close. Gazing down, he said earnestly, "You're the best, Ava. It's my fault. If you hadn't helped me start Vance, your health wouldn't be this fragile." I only smiled and stroked his cheek. I'd never regretted building Vance with him, but the grind had wrecked my body. The doctor warned conceiving could be hard. Hoping for a child, I resigned and stayed home to recover, leaving company matters behind. That was my first impression of Willow, and because I shrugged it off, the crack between us widened with her name. When we dined out, Julian began tuning me out, smiling down at his phone. Suspicious, I asked, "Who are you texting?" At first he'd answer openly, "Willow. Urgent stuff at Vance." Then pocket the phone and hug me. "Sorry, Ava, I'm swamped." Later he grew irritable. "She's just a kid with no friends. I'm her boss, throwing her a lifeline. Don't overthink." Seeing his annoyance, I swallowed my questions and fell silent. And then came the Julian who was busier and busier. Julian stopped joining me for breakfast, and he came home later and later each night. Whenever I asked what he was doing, the evasion and coldness grew more obvious. The topics I shared with him were met only by his blank stare. He was drifting farther and farther away. He said, "Ava, I'm really tired lately. Ava, don't overthink it, I'm just buried at work. You're not young anymore, quit imagining things all day. I told him to keep his distance from Willow. He began to think I was making a mountain out of a molehill, that I was being unreasonable. In the end, because I insisted, he agreed. He fired Willow. I thought our relationship had warmed again. He once more became the Julian who spent every day beside me, until that day when Julian and I were watching a movie. An urgent WhatsApp ping shattered the calm between us. I glanced over curiously. He hurriedly switched the phone off, then squeezed my hand. Just something trivial, but he clenched my fingers so hard it hurt. His silence betrayed his distraction. My attention slipped from the film, the ending was lame, and neither of us enjoyed it. We walked out in silence, one in front of the other. A call came, his face changed. Ava, I'm sorry. There's an emergency at Vance and they need me. I have to go. I watched him sprint away before I could answer, feeling him disappear a little farther into the distance. Next morning I woke to neat, untouched sheets announcing he had not come home. My heart hollowed and kept sinking. Later he explained Willow had an accident and, with no one else to call, she'd phoned him, promising it was the last time. As he spoke I noticed the red mark on his collar he hadn't quite hidden. My heart turned colder and colder. Wearily I told him, go take a shower. Panic flickered in his eyes. He stammered that he'd brushed against something in a bar, then fled to the bathroom. While the water ran I picked up his phone. The passcode was my birthday. A new top-pinned WhatsApp message popped up, from Willow. Ellis, thank you. I may never meet anyone as good to me as you. Ellis, if she weren't in the picture, would you marry me? His reply, don't think too much. Then, rest well with your cold, don't stay up late. A little flirtatious, yet seemingly reined in. But I knew Julian far too well. He hadn't said no. I could tell his heart had already wandered. I added Willow on WhatsApp. We never messaged, yet I knew she knew it was me. Her Instagram brimmed with posts about Julian. On the very nights he'd claimed overtime, he'd been with her. Their earliest chats dated back 6 months. Ellis is so handsome when he's serious at work, starry eyes. Today Ellis stood up for me. Think I'm falling for him. He said he's never met anyone as special as me. Does that mean he likes me too? Turns out he has a girlfriend, but I won't give up. If he'd met me first, he'd have chosen me. And that movie night, wish fulfilled. The photo, 2 hands side by side on a bed. That tender look on Julian's face, I'd seen it before, aimed at me. A man's lies and deceit collapse under their own weight. Considerate Ellis made me soup for my cramps. Poor Ellis worked late with me, sniff. Amusement park date with Ellis, hee hee. Then one day she posted a wedding gown photo. He said he wants to marry me. Maybe every bride-to-be feels she's the most beautiful woman alive. She beamed, arm in arm with Julian, who wore the same gentle smile. Anyone would call the picture sweet, if I weren't standing between them. At dinner one evening, after zoning out and smashing another bowl, Julian finally voiced his worry. Ava, what's wrong? You don't look well. I studied his concerned face and suddenly said, Julian, I've been feeling unwell lately. Could you take a few days off and get away with me? He blinked, then relaxed, smiling as he stroked my hair. Of course, anything for my Ava. Where do you want to go? Take me to see Mrs. King, I miss her. Let's go to Seatown. I wonder if Mrs. King's shop is still there. I hadn't mentioned Mrs. King in ages. Hearing the name caught Julian off guard, but he agreed. Sure, it's been years since we went back. Seatown was a past I usually avoided, except for Mrs. King. Julian and I had sat in the same high school class, but back then we barely knew each other. My parents, eager for a second child, had parked me in the countryside. Once my little brother started middle school, they hauled me to Seatown so I could look after him. At 16 I had no idea about style or envy, but my thick accent, dated clothes, and good grades were all reasons the other kids froze me out. If everyone picks on you and not him, you'd better fix your attitude, don't corrupt your brother. You slipped several places last exam, slacking off? Your dad and I pinch pennies for your schooling, so make us proud. Their scolding, their favoritism, made me desperate to escape. Even among elite Riverdale High students, Julian had always blazed with attention. Straight A student, gorgeous face. A little aloof, maybe, but so brilliant he inspired awe. The distance between us felt enormous. No one wanted to be my friend, until the night I finished helping Mrs. King close her shop and I saw Julian. Ava, darling, Julian lives next door. He goes to Riverdale Prep, same as you. You two should get to know each other, be good friends. Mrs. King beamed while she introduced us. Back then, the word friend was something I desperately needed. The star of our school actually lived in this crumbling alley. That evening Julian's face was bruised, his eyes fierce, nothing like the golden boy he played on campus. Poor kid, Mrs. King said. His dad cheated and walked out when he was only a few months old. Now, still a teenager, he's already the breadwinner. Folks on the block help the family when they can, but some punks use that kindness as an excuse to pick on him. Ava, you two go to the same school, look out for each other, alright? Hi, Ava. I'm Julian. The boy who hated talking offered me his first kindness. Thanks to Mrs. King's bridge, we slowly grew close. At school we were like two cubs sharing body heat. We walked in and out together. When anyone bullied me, Julian charged to my rescue, and I always brought him breakfast. When did I start falling for him? Probably that day. Ava, want to apply to Archbridge University with me? The boy's grin was wild, washed in newborn sunrise. His eyes curved crescents that sent ripples straight through my heart. Yes. Together. From that moment I had a destination. Everything after followed naturally. We got into our dream university. We left my suffocating family. I began to sprout, shedding weight, learning how to dress, smoothing my accent, building social skills in campus clubs, collecting friends who loved the same things I did. Julian and I slid into couplehood without even asking. Side by side we climbed peaks, slogged through valleys, and arrived at our 10th year. Friends around us split and reunited. Maybe we'd felt boredom too, but I always believed we would make it to the finish line. The memory screeched to a halt, because only now do I realize I never actually knew Julian at all. Seatown Airport. He didn't pick up before takeoff. Half an hour after I landed he finally called, voice thick with guilt, Ava, I'm sorry. Some emergency blew up at Vance. Go see Mrs. King for me, send her my love. I'll visit soon, I promise. It's fine. Handle your work. I hung up and opened the photos my private eye had sent. Julian in a hospital corridor, cradling unconscious Willow, eyes shining with expectant dad joy and worry. Julian, you disgusting bastard. I walked the familiar streets. Seatown bustled the same as ever, as if nobody's absence mattered. I spotted my mother holding her grandson, her gaze soft, no trace of the sharp-tongued woman she used to be. Looks like life has treated her well. I detoured around her and headed straight to Mrs. King's. Knock, knock. A strange middle-aged man opened the door. Who are you looking for? He asked, scanning me up and down. Hi, is King Hui here? At Mrs. King's name his face relaxed. Oh, you mean my mom? She passed last year. The words slammed into me. I froze, then Mrs. King's smiling face floated up. I'm sorry for your loss. Walking away, I felt cold air threading through my bones. The people who are kind to me never stay. My vision blurred, everything went black, and I hit the pavement. When I woke, Julian was clutching my hand beside the bed. He looked as if he hadn't shaved or changed in days, hair a mess, suit rumpled, bruised shadows under his eyes. Seeing me awake, his own eyes reddened, he hugged me frantically. Ava, I'm so sorry, truly. I didn't know about Mrs. King, that you had to face it alone. Are you okay? All I could smell was the perfume he hadn't had time to mask. I glared at him with pure loathing, his face twisted into something monstrous. In my ears echoed the voices of 18-year-old me and 18-year-old him. Julian, what if one day you leave me? The teenage boy had vowed with perfect seriousness, Ava, never. We'll be together our whole lives. If I ever hurt you, I'll die. That boy who promised forever had turned into the repellent man before me. My stomach lurched. I bolted to the bathroom and vomited until my throat burned while Julian shouted for a doctor. The boy in my memory waved goodbye, smaller and farther away. So I turned my head, strode forward without a second glance, and this time I never looked back. I unlocked my phone and opened Willow's chat. Let's meet. 2 p.m., cafe under the Vance building. Sure. The afternoon cafe was almost empty. When I arrived, Willow was already there. She wasn't what I'd pictured, we were nothing alike. Barely 20, she looked like she'd just stepped out of a lecture hall. White sundress, the bright, carefree aura only the young own. Sis, you're here. Ella said you like your Americano black, so I ordered one, hope that's okay. Willow blinked, her sweet smile a deliberate taunt. I stirred my coffee, glanced at the glass of water in front of her, and said, you do know I'm still Julian's girlfriend, which makes what you're doing the textbook definition of the other woman, right? Sure I know. But sis, in love there's no such thing as dibs. She gave an indifferent shrug. You two aren't even married, are you? You heard Ellis, he wants to marry me. He's only stayed with you all these years out of pity. And besides, I'm already carrying Ellis's baby. You can't give him a child, I can. Watching her stroke her belly with that syrupy grin, I felt as if I'd swallowed a live fly, nauseous, the taste stuck in my throat. You two scumbags really deserve each other. I curved my lips in a taunting smile, but her expression didn't flicker. Since it's come to this, just let him go, sis, she said casually. Her eyes sparkled with the triumph she thought was within reach. I smiled, set down my cup, and stood. He'll be yours, very soon. Willow hadn't expected me to agree so readily. She stared at me in stunned disbelief as she left. A decade of affection had lost to a fling. Why should the guilty go unpunished? I would leave, but I would leave in a blaze of glory. Clutching the morning's medical report, I savored the thought with vicious satisfaction. Whoever tramples a sincere heart must swallow 1,000 needles. When I got home, Julian was actually there. Maybe Willow had said something. He looked nervous when he saw me. You're late tonight. I cooked your favorite. He carried the steaming dishes to the table and handed me a glass of milk. Ignoring the meal, I set the milk down. I saw Willow. She says she's pregnant. Julian shot to his feet and started babbling excuses. It had been a single mistake. He had always loved only me. Suddenly my stomach cramped again. Seeing me go white with pain, he scrambled for the painkillers in my bag. I swallowed the tablets and spoke slowly. Julian, let's get married. I watched him freeze, savoring the ugly question in my mind. In that instant, was he thinking of our 10 years, or of Willow and the baby in her belly? Then, hand trembling, he reached for mine as though making a solemn vow. Yes, we'll marry, Ava. Julian threw himself into the preparations. He handled every detail himself. Congratulations flooded my WhatsApp, everyone celebrating that our 10-year story would finally have its happy ending. I watched him rush about, exhaustion unable to mask his joy. Claiming poor sleep, I moved into the guest room. He only hesitated a moment before asking, Ava, we are getting married, right? I shut the door without answering. He stayed outside, repeating like a broken record, we'll get married. As the wedding drew nearer, frantic messages from Willow pinged in. He says he doesn't want me. I'm carrying his child and he's throwing me away. You told him to ditch me, didn't you? You said you didn't want Julian anymore. You lied, you liar. Why do you two get a fresh start while I have to slink off? I won't let either of you off. I screenshot the tirade, then deleted Willow's contact. Soon, all of this would be over. Wedding day. Julian stood outside the locked bridal suite while I had my makeup done inside, separated only by the door. The happiness felt unreal. At last he was going to marry me. I slicked on lipstick, dropped it back into my bag, and studied the mirror. A beautiful bride stared back, her eyes hollow, disconnected from the festive world outside. The gown had been custom made for me. Julian had flown to France and spent a month with a celebrated couturier to have it fitted. I had dreamed since 17 of wearing this dress and marrying Julian. Everyone envied this ceremony. People called it the grandest Riverdale had seen in years. Julian had invited every witness to our love, every business contact. He couldn't wait to proclaim our union to the world. I opened the door and saw awe blaze across his face. He stepped closer, eyes red with dream-come-true elation, and leaned in to kiss me. I tilted my head, the kiss landed on my ear. Thank you for this wedding, Julian, I whispered, smiling. Then I nudged him away and let the bridesmaids and groomsmen sweep him, laughing, toward the aisle. Julian, I prepared a gift for you too. Julian's POV. As the groomsmen escorted him forward, panic surged through Julian for no reason he could name. Today had to be perfect. He pulled out his phone and called security. Willow was locked in the mansion, she couldn't get out. After today he would put her on a plane. This accident between him and Ava would simply cease to exist. Then he and Ava could be together forever. Calmer now, he waited. The appointed hour came, and Ava didn't appear. Instead, the giant screen lit up with messages between him and Willow. Gasps rippled through the pews, whispers turned to roars. Watching the scandal unfold before Riverdale's elite, he knew it was over. The officier asked if he wished to proceed. Julian stood frozen, sobbing uncontrollably. His mother stormed up and slapped him. You've become your father, she wept, then stormed away. He was the man his childhood self had despised, his father's mirror. From now on people would say, like father, like son, cheaters, trash. Dazed, he calmed the guests, saw the wreckage through, and finally walked back into the house. Everything that had been Ava's was gone. The mansion that had belonged to him and Ava no longer had its. On the bed lay only the wedding gown he had given her and a letter. Julian, from this moment on, we owe each other nothing. The message she left him was only a few lines. When he finished reading, his eyes burned red. He refused to believe the bond he and Ava had built across so many years could simply end. She had already taken her revenge. He told himself that if he could just find her, if he could apologize, he could win her back. He tried everything. He asked every mutual friend, and each gave an awkward smile and said they had no idea where Ava had gone. When he finally tracked down her best friend's address and rushed over, Ava wasn't there either. He dropped to his knees, begging her friend to tell him where she was, and she hurled a hospital report in his face. Julian, stop searching. Let her live out the time she has left in peace. His hand shook as he unfolded the paper. The word stomach cancer paralyzed him. 3 months. He thought of the painkillers Ava had been taking lately. No, impossible. She hadn't forgiven him yet. He squeezed his eyes shut in agony. From that instant, he knew he had lost her forever. He gave up the hunt. If the rest of her life was a life she didn't want to share with him, the least he could do was honor her final wish. So he drowned himself in liquor and let Vance crumble around him, desperate to forget. Later, Willow found him inside the mansion. Julian lay on the floor in a stupor, empty bottles scattered everywhere. Willow stared at the wreck of him, bitter and furious. Julian, look at yourself. For a woman like Ava, you're willing to abandon me, and our child? He blinked at her rounded belly. Because of that baby, Ava had walked away. It was all his fault. He admitted it. When Willow had first appeared, his attention had wavered. A bright, young intern who gazed at him like he hung the moon. He hadn't resisted. When she came on to him, he slipped straight into her softness, and the instant it was over he hated himself. But she kept coming back, and he never pushed her away. He basked in the flattery of youth, played a careless game of almost love, and sliced Ava to pieces. Still, he'd never meant to leave Ava. Ava was the one he loved. He'd indulged Willow only because she reminded him of Ava at 19. Now, staring at this hysterical face, he wondered how he'd ever mistaken her for Ava. They weren't alike at all. He laughed, bitter and broken, eyes icy with loathing. Get rid of it. I will never claim that child. There's only Ava. If it weren't for you, she'd still be with me. You were the one who started this, who made me fall for you. Now you're all I have left, and you're throwing me away, Willow screamed. She had already sacrificed everything for him. News that she was the other woman had reached her parents. Disgraced, they cut her off. At work, whispers followed every step she took. Losing Julian now would finish her. I'd rather die than love you, then we'll die together. Willow's laugh erupted, wild and shrill. She flicked a lighter and set the mansion ablaze. Julian didn't stop her. Without Ava, he no longer wanted to breathe. At the last second he saw a vision of his teenage self, earnest and reverent, vowing to Ava, if I ever hurt you, I'll die for it. This time, he kept his promise. Epilogue, Bali. A Chinese woman reclined on a lounge chair beneath the tropical sun, skin luminous, curves drawing every male gaze on the beach. Behind her sunglasses, full red lips curved as she watched the crowd, hormones thick in the salt air. Men drifted over to test their luck. She turned each away with a polite smile. Ava stretched lazily, savoring the horizon. After wrecking Julian with those wedding photos months ago, she had fled here. A ringtone cut through the lull. Ava, did you see the news? That bastard Julian is dead. On the other end her best friend laughed in triumph. I slipped him your misdiagnosis report, and he locked himself inside drinking like a madman. When that psycho Willow showed up she torched the place, they burned together. Taylor's tone stayed calm. In the end, karma collected its due. Back in the hospital she really had believed she only had months. Plan set, ruin Julian, then live out her days. She'd left Seatown. Overseas tests soon revealed the earlier diagnosis had been wrong, but she never wanted to set foot in that city again. One call later, her best friend announced to the world that Ava had died. The old Ava was gone, the woman lying here had been reborn. Maybe someday she'd love again, maybe she'd choose solitude. Whatever came next, she would live for herself alone. She was only 27, an entire horizon of possibilities stretched in front of her, didn't it? Thanks for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you enjoyed the video, please like and share with friends. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales. See you next time.